Hello friend, my name is Cassandra, and today I'm going to continue playing for you Uncommon Time by a Feral Phoenix, kind of. This is the extras section. So, I believe these two people are part of Arietta's, quintet? Quintet, yes. So, let's talk to them. You can head back to the title screen from the double doors. If you want to see the guest characters, use the crystal in the lower left. Huh? My settings, if you want them. Yvonne Fortinbras, age 23, gender fluid, 167 centimeters tall. One of Arietta's ensemble members, played second violin. The details of her and Arietta's meeting are briefly explained in story in a relationship with Calix. She's really careless about her appearance and generally looks bored or spaced out. I actually designed and developed all the members of Arietta's ensemble because I have a bad habit of investing way too much effort into side characters. So I'd like to be able to showcase them at some point. That'd be really cool. This one would be Calix. You have our congratulations. Age 26, male, 190 centimeters tall. One of Arietta's ensemble members, played first violin. Oh, his name is Calix LaChapelle. The details of his and Arietta's meeting are briefly explained in story, in a relationship with Yvonne. Wears a lot of jewelry and makeup, proud and very fastidious about his appearance. I actually designed and developed all the members, because, yes. I really do want to see something with him, that'd be really cool. Who is this? Oh, hey, that's Feral! Hello, my name is Feral Phoenix. Thank you so much for playing Uncommon Time. It's been a long journey since I started working on this game towards the end of 2013. I was originally only planning to make a short or mid-length game, and somehow the finished product has something like 15 to 25 hours of gameplay. Tell me about it, oh my god. How did this happen? This is my first work in RPG Maker, and I know that I only made it this far thanks to my game-making senpai, my testers, and all my friends on Tumblr and Twitter who cheered me on from the sidelines and graciously listened to my complaining. Thank you all so much. Uncommon Time is filled with things that I like and discussions of topics that are important to me. So if you enjoyed it, if it made you think, or if it's been able to give you strength, that would make me really happy. Thank you again, and congratulations on clearing the best ending. Cool. This would be Mayron's ancestor? Suzerain. You can check the conditions for getting the endings with this bookshelf. There's a little bit about the endings you've already gotten, too. Otoa Suzerain, age 27, female, 149 centimeters tall. One of Arietta's ensemble members, plays the cello. The details of her and Arietta's meeting are briefly explained in story. She's the oldest in Arietta's ensemble, and is also the shortest character in the story, not counting child versions of the other main characters. And then this. Yes, cool. Okay, what about... no? Okay, I just wanted to check. How to get ending 1. If you defeat the last boss after having cleared both extra dungeons. Good ending. Alto has obtained love and validation and something to fight for. Even though it will be difficult, she chooses to put an end to the Cantabile system herself, by confronting her parents and making the true history of the world public. Knowing that she cannot accomplish this by herself, she enlists the help of her friends. Walking away would still have been a valid choice, but Alto allows herself to be selfish enough to demand a perfect victory. Either option is a form of self-care. The parties chase together, finally all unified by the same goal. It is not only Alto whose chances of successfully moving forward go up with everyone's strength to draw on. It's the same for all of them. Yeah. Ending 2. If you defeat the last boss without having cleared both extra dungeons, normal ending. With nothing to gain from confronting her family, Alto leaves to live her own life. The fate of the world, which never should have been her problem in the first place, isn't her responsibility anymore. She saved the world, but more importantly, she saved herself. The party, with no reason to stay together, splits apart as everyone moves on to take the next step in their lives. How to get ending 3. If you lose to the last boss, bad ending. Alto's greatest and last work. This end's final end card is the only one in the game to have a non-party member on it. Oh, it's Luminoso. Right. Even knowing the cost, the spirits were still willing to come to her defense. Yeah, that was a sad ending. Ending 4. If you lose to the Herald of Winter. Bad ending, but the only ones who see it that way are Teagan and the other part of Alto's heart. This ending had a lot of love put into it, and in its own way, it's pretty cathartic. From the beginning, there was only ever one Alto. This, too, was her wish. She is in no danger of dying from exposure like the others, but this use of her powers is too much for her body to withstand. She knows that she has sealed her own fate as well, but this no longer matters to her. I mean, she wanted to bring about the apocalypse anyway, so... This is the only ending that explicitly reveals Saki's illness. Yeah. If you lose to Teagan... Bad ending. Foregone conclusion. A very brief ending. Yeah, it was pretty short. He just stabs Alto. From Teagan's perspective, this is a gesture of mercy, and the only thing she has left to offer to Alto. From the rest of the party's perspective, yeah. Ending 6. If you fail to save Saki within the time limit. Bad ending. Was not originally part of the game's outline, and was added on a whim during the planning segment for this part of Movement 2. It seemed possible to integrate into gameplay, so I decided to go on ahead and do it. Though I think the chances of someone discovering this ending with no tips is pretty low. With her confidence and self-worth torn apart by Teagan, Saki is all Mayrin has to cling to. Without him... Yeah, that was a thing. Let's see. Do I want to talk to the spirits, or do I want to talk to the party members? So, thank you for coming this far with us. You can hear backstage stories and background settings here if you want, so go ahead and ask. Read character settings. Holy shit. Alto Cantabile, age 18, female, 165 centimeters tall, born October 5th, is a Libra. The protagonist of the story. Her full given name is Contralto, but she only introduces herself that way in very formal situations. The Cantabile of the current generation. Leaves home after her 18th birthday with her childhood friend Teagan, in order to travel to Harmonia and carry out the world tuning. Recruits fortune teller Saki, traveler Mayrin, and vocalist Aubrey to her ensemble. Cellist. Lives with her father Baroque, mother Amaryllis, and grandmother Fior Itura. Her great-grandmother Calor died when she was only 6 or 7 years old. It appears that her parents' marriage was arranged for political reasons in the noble world. And once Alta herself was born, her mother made an active effort to interact with her and her father as little as possible. Amaryllis Cantabile never pretended at affection for either her husband or daughter, and whether it was kinder or not to lie remains to be seen. Alta's training growing up was overseen by her father and grandmother, who were both strict and only afforded her minimal praise when she produced exemplary results. The only time Alta was spared from training was while she was recovering from surgery, and she was not even allowed to rest as a preventative measure under the principle that one day she might need to push herself past her limits and not bow down to pain in the name of her duty. She was never shown affection. It was deemed unnecessary. Her chance meeting with Teagan when the latter snuck into the Cantabile grounds on a whim was the first time she ever interacted with another child. Just as she grew up both understanding her family's insistence that she must sacrifice herself for the good of the world and resenting their abuse, she is both grateful for Teagan's outrage on her behalf and the glimpses Teagan provided of the outside world and resentful towards Teagan's continually more controlling behavior and dismissal of her own perspective. Though she understands the importance of her family's duties, she also harbors deep hatred for the world. However, she has suppressed her own negative feelings for so long that she can no longer recognize them for what they are. She instinctively chooses ensemble members who have the same disillusionments and resentments as herself. Their true feelings invert the purpose of the world tuning, and serve to urge the impending ice age along instead of holding it back. Has a strong sense of duty and a powerful will, and relentlessly pursues her chosen course of action regardless of other people's complaints. Tends to act first and trust that those with a mind to follow her will ultimately do so, rather than trying to argue others around to her point of view. Inarticulate and often struggles to express herself in a way that others will understand. At the beginning of the story, she does not display much outward emotion, but gradually becomes more expressive. Once she has accepted her true feelings for what they are, she also begins to display her temper. When very angry, her eyes seem to lighten oddly. Her left eye also tends to change color when she uses large amounts of power. Probably as a consequence of how she was raised, she likes to stay busy, and will push herself to her limits without a shred of hesitation if she judges it to be necessary. Sometimes gets ahead of herself and winds up causing herself trouble later. She rarely gets embarrassed and always speaks candidly regardless of the social status of her conversation partner. But she is shy around Arietta, whom she has idolized from a young age. Deeply values the friends who accept her and respects her agency, and is merciless to those who would try to take that away from her. Projects onto and identifies with inanimate objects because of her upbringing, and despises those who do not take good care of their things. Really loves coffee. Okay, let's read the game. About Alto. What is there left to say about Alto that hasn't already been brought up in story? During the pre-planning stages of the story, I had originally meant for Alto to be a lot more dependent on Teagan, but when I actually opened it up and started writing, it turned out that Alto herself didn't like that. So I let her develop the way she had wanted to, and I actually had more fun writing that way. I'm very fond of her design, too. You often see fiction about abuse urging characters to not hate their abusers, even in the cases where the narrative doesn't try to force forgiveness, in the name of not perpetuating the cycle of negativity. I don't really agree with that. The last thing you need when you're in or have been in an unsafe relationship is to feel like you're bad for feeling resentment and then start putting yourself down. Yeah. I think it's healthier to go ahead and let yourself fully experience that kind of resentment and hate, and concentrate on just not taking those feelings out on people who don't deserve it, also not letting it consume you. So it was important for me to write this story with a character who embraces her anger and hatred, and isn't shamed for them, and still gets to be the hero too. Plus, it was just fun to write late story Alto's scary side. I love characters that like that a lot. Considering how unexpressive Alto is at the beginning of the game, it's kind of amazing to me that she wound up having the highest number of face graphics of all the characters. How to put it, she's really come a long way. The whole puzzle segment with Masked Alto was really, really fun to do. Man, that still looks great and creepy. Really, really fun. Like Saki, Alto is all about mask imagery, so that puzzle was roughly 50% referential joking and 90% self-indulgent fun. I think some folks will have recognized the homage at the point that terms like Providence and Crucible came up in Alto's music box. That's always what it is. Oh, but if you don't recognize that reference, it's okay too. Yeah, I don't know what you're talking about. Alto's meeting with Arietta was really important for me to write. Having people validate your feelings makes a huge difference, especially if you're not used to it. It wouldn't be an exaggeration to assert that Alto's decision to go back home and fight her family is only possible because she met Arietta. Of course, because of the new things that she and the others learn, but also because having that support gives her so much more strength and courage. I also don't think that Alto's choice in ending 1 is more right than what she decides to do in ending 2. Both choices are meant to be valid ones, and in either ending, the party supports her and respects her agency. Some of the incidents that are described in Alto's Uncommon Time are loosely based on real things that have actually happened to me. Oh boy. What was the other option? Oh, no thanks. Okay. Teagan. Hey, congrats on making it here, and sorry for causing trouble in the story, I guess. Character settings. Age 19, female, 174 centimeters tall, born on January 18th and is a Capricorn. Alto's childhood friend, an ordinary middle-class girl from the same city as her. Chosen from amongst all the town's young strings players as Alto's practice partner. Has always despised the Cantabile family for their treatment of Alto, and never believed that their fairy tales of the distant past could be real. Went along with Alto's quest despite this to look after her, and, though she initially does not admit it, to avoid conflicts in her personal life. Violinist, plays the first violin part. Lives with her parents Bran and Aaron, along with her 5 younger siblings, Tristan, Innes, Lachlan, Morgan, and Elspeth. Her family is well off enough to not have the trouble providing for all the children as long as both parents work. Used to being in a position of authority and responsibility as the oldest sister, which has influenced her interactions with Alto as well. Cares for and feels protective for her younger siblings, but vehemently opposed her brother Tristan's choice to go into sex work because she herself is sex repulsed, leading to the two of them becoming estranged. Believes that she is in the right, so is especially annoyed with her younger siblings' pressure to go apologize and her parents' quiet disapproval, blah 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 blah. Does not start to reconsider her position until confronted about her treatment of Alto. Met Alto roughly 10 years prior to the story, and could not bear to abandon her after learning Alto's circumstances. Originally began playing the violin in order to become Alto's practice partner, so that the Cantabile family would not obstruct her from becoming Alto's friend. But after experiencing Alto's utter dearth of knowledge from the outside world, her unquestioning belief of her family's mythology, and her lack of outward protest towards her upbringing, Teagan came to believe that Alto did not understand that she was being abused. Therefore, since Alto must not be capable of making decisions for herself, Teagan would have to look out for her and her best interests to protect her. Genuinely believes until the end of the second movement that she alone understands and has the right to decide what is best for Alto. Sees nothing wrong with the way she talks about Alto to the others. Over 10 years of trying to be Alto's guardian, she started taking all the stress of doing so out on Alto. And despite her original intentions, wound up being just as abusive as Alto's family. Realizing that Alto was actually cognizant of everything all along came as quite a shock. And along with her discussion with Saki and Mayrin, this causes her to reevaluate her behavior and attempt to change. She tries to respect Alto's agency more, stops taking her frustration at Alto out on Mayrin, and eventually begins to consider her own motivations and relationship with her family. Proud and stubborn, but also capable of great kindness in her better moments. Possesses the diligence and strengths to truly confront her own wrongdoings and try to improve herself. Loves to learn. Her respect for history probably fuels her bias for classics. Her hobbies are nonfiction reading, martial arts, and collecting nice hats. Her surname means almighty. Huh. One of the biggest problem children as far as the in-game story goes. Uncommon Time doesn't really have a villain, but it does have antagonistic characters, and chief among them is Teagan. Chances are that you've had that one friend who thinks they know best for everyone. Maybe you've actually been that one friend. Maybe you've had experience standing in both positions. Teagan is that one friend who's finally gone way over the line. Aside from just presenting Teagan's behavior as harmful, it was important to me to let her actually recognize what she's doing to the others and start working to change her patterns. Though Teagan spends a big chunk of the game causing trouble for the other characters, she was very easy to write and didn't cause problems for me. By the way, I think some people have noticed this, but all the antagonistic characters in Uncommon Time are drawn with face graphics and battlers facing right. I'm actually not used to drawing Teagan facing left. A hidden character setting I had vague plans to include in the story but wound up never using is that because of one of Teagan's younger sisters, Morgan, is trans, she's actually hoping to introduce her to Aubrey so that she won't just be surrounded by cis people all the time. Teagan's actually pretty nice and thoughtful when she's not busy being a jerk. It's nice having really butch girls in my cast. Also, Teagan is the top member of Uncommon Time's unofficial cast members who look best in glasses list. I want to see that. I want to see them all in glasses. Let's see. I think it was Saki who came next. Good work. This is something like a cast party, so go ahead and take it easy here. That's still, I don't know why, but that one move is really creepy looking to me. Okay, Totoki Saki, age 26, male, 169 centimeters tall, born April 17th, and is an Aries. A traveling fortune teller who comes to Harmonia on his journey as a sort of informal pilgrimage. Discovers the first violin score, unattended in Antiphon Grotto, and recognizing it for what it is, sets out to libretto to confirm his theory. Along the way, he meets Alto and Teagan and joins Alto's ensemble. Violist, the only child in a poor family. His latent magical talent awakened when he was nearly 13 years old, and as most of his power is precognitive in nature, his first vision revealed his own future to him, that he was fated to die young. Traumatized by the sudden revelation of his own mortality, he was unwilling and unable to confront his power even as it grew out of control, until his parents set him to train by taking music lessons. His enjoyment of music slowly helped him become able to master his power. Was always on the frail side and was prone to sickness throughout childhood. However, around age 14 to 15, his health began to visibly decline, and at age 16 he was diagnosed with a fatal disease. The initial diagnosis confirmed Saki's vision. He would probably not live to see age 30. Treatment of the disease is still being researched, has a low success rate, and is much too expensive for Saki's family to afford, so if he wanted to try to be treated, he would have to somehow come up with the money himself. He became proficient at healing magic while studying medicine in order to better understand his own situation. Left home as soon as he came of age to avoid burdening his parents with having to support him financially. Worked to support himself as a fortune teller, street performer, and sometimes as a healer. Though he largely had to rely on public transportation or hitching rides to do so, he began to travel with the intent of fulfilling his worldly ambitions while he still had the ability. The journey to Harmonia is probably one of the last of these ambitions. Calm, gentle, easygoing, intellectual, a natural peacemaker. Skillfully keeps others at arm's length in order to protect his facade of unconcern. Most of his energy is spent in an effort to seem normal and not betray his own fear and anxiety. So much that he refuses to admit to himself how much he wants to live because it would cause him to break down. Caught in the impasse of knowing that accepting the inevitable and giving up will cause him less pain in the long run, and his own attachment to life and desire to be saved, especially knowing that he does not have much time left. Deeply cynical, also somewhat morbid. Most of his anger and bitterness are directed inwards, and only show when he lets slip the occasional pessimistic remark. He lacks Alto's overt malice. Tends to get along well with people younger than him. Of the members of the party, only Alto and Mayrin know about his circumstances. Alto, because of the similarity of their true nature, means that his facade doesn't work on her, and Mayrin because she learned early of his poor health. His desperation for support and inability to open up to other people leads him to lean heavily on Mayrin, even though he knows how precarious their relationship is. They originally began fortune-telling with trumps rather than the tarot out of an inability to afford a high-quality deck of tarot cards, but now has become a bit of an active snob about it and prefers trumps. Can be a bit of an aesthete and would happily live as a dandy if he could afford it. Dislikes gore and horror, even though he's very morbid. Skilled at making tea and coffee. Okay. Wait, which one is... Oh, okay, I'm the one on the bottom. That really confused me for a second there. Saki is something like the secondary heroine of the story. He somehow managed to be one of the easiest characters to write. His personality is effortless to render, and the hardest character to write. Getting him to do what I wanted could be like pulling teeth. His scene during the end of the last rehearsal hell segment took a completely obscene amount of rewrites. Saki has to live. That just kind of... Oh, that must be the one where Mayrin had to go get the medicine. That's just kind of a non-negotiable part of why I wrote his character. But in order to do that, he has to talk about what's wrong with him of his own free will, which is like pulling teeth, and ask for the help of his own free will too. It was just getting him to the point where he's ready and willing to do that was the problem. Saki is a lot more delicate than he likes people to think. He's vain too, so he puts a lot of effort into maintaining appearances. Figuratively, in terms of always trying to act calm with dignity, and also literally as he wears multiple layers of clothing in order to make himself appear to have a healthy weight. Speaking of Saki and appearances, the story behind his cutting his hair after ending one goes like this. Part of the treatment process for his disease is a little like chemotherapy, in that it's harsh on the body and damages one's hair. If a patient undergoing this treatment has long hair, they have high chances of losing their hair in chunks. This risk goes down with short hair. Saki initially whined a lot to the effect that he would rather die than cut his hair, but in the end he was told don't be ridiculous by Mayrin and got a haircut. She got one too for solidarity. Saki intends to grow his hair back out as soon as is plausible. As with Alto, Saki is very deeply involved with mass symbolism. It manifests in different ways for him, though. Saki's layering of his identity is a conscious choice, and he's very selective about who gets to see all of him, all of his body and all of his heart. The reason Saki can't handle horror has to do with how ghosts work in this universe. It's touched on a little during various side quests and the party's meeting with Arietta, but ordinarily souls only stay attached to the world as ghosts because of negative emotions, and especially traumatic death, unfulfilled wishes, or grudges, something like that. Ghosts are always malevolent entities because of this. Because of the negativity he harbors, Saki worries that if he dies unsatisfied, he himself may become a wraith or wind up harming innocent people, or worse, his loved ones. If you notice the Tamari in Saki's room, that is probably something that his mother made for him when he left home. Aww. Hey there! Are you enjoying the after party? Okay. Otoa Mayrin, age 16, female, 162 centimeters tall, born August 15th and is a Leo. A traveling musician who comes to Harmonia hoping to perform in Polyphony's Star Festival, which we never got to see. I wanted to see it. Started a jam session with the pianist in Del Segno out of boredom while waiting for the luthiers to open, and was there found and recruited by Alto for the World Tuning Ensemble. Only had a few years' worth of classical training, after which she learned from her fellow street performers, so her technical knowledge is skewed and full of holes. Fervent member of the avant-garde, also a skilled magician. Violinist, plays the second violin part. Originally born into a noble family, grew up with her parents, older brother Rizuki and sister Mino, and her younger twin sisters Ringo and Hozuki, plus the house staff. Never that close with either of her older or younger siblings because of the age gap between them, and rarely got the attention of her parents who were preoccupied with government work. Because her older brother and sister were allowed to participate in important tasks, and her younger sisters were still of an age where they were required frequent care of an adult's supervision, she came to believe that she must be somehow undeserving of her family's attention. Fell in love with classical music after going to see a concert as a child, and pestered her parents incessantly until they allowed her to take violin lessons. Her falling out with her traditionalist teacher only gained her parents' disapproval, which helped neither her inferiority complex nor her low sense of self-worth. Unable to bear life with her family any longer, she learned about a group of traveling musicians, she lied about her age and ran away with them. Perhaps her companions knew all about her true identity, as they did their best to teach Mayrin about life and how to support herself as they traveled together. Over the years that they were together, Mayrin was able to gain self-confidence for the first time, and was afforded the opportunity to explore her own identity. This confidence was torn to shreds by Teagan in the space of a few weeks. She grows close to Saki because of their highly compatible personalities, and develops protective feelings for him after realizing what he's hiding from the others. Given both of their vulnerabilities, their relationship quickly turns codependent after the initial failure to perform the world tuning. Saki is her life. She clings to and refuses to live without him, but instead of giving up because of this situation, she is determined to save him and build a life together with him. She will probably be able to stand on her own again in the future, but for now she still leans on and needs Saki as much as he leans on and needs her. Normally has a gregarious, cheerful personality and great spontaneity, but still nurses a deep insecurity and tends to look to others for validation because of her self-worth being unstable. Despite being the youngest member of the party, she still has the most life experience. Probably is the party member with her head screwed on straightest, too. Extroverted and loves positive attention. Extremely skilled at cooking because she spent much of her childhood free time with the family cook. Then went on to hone those skills on the road. Especially loves to bake sweets. Her heterochromia is not uncommon in the Otoa family, who have had hereditary problems with eye pigmentation since before they became nobility. Wait. Do you have the same? You do too! Okay, sorry. Back to Mayrin. Mayrin was a very fun character to write. They say that there are two kinds of original characters, the ones you carry to term and give birth to yourself, and the ones who just sort of show up one day and whom you've had to get to know over time. Mayrin probably falls under the latter category. She's one of the characters who started the story less developed and revealed more of herself to me as I wrote. Perhaps as a consequence of that, her interactions with the rest of the cast all feel very natural. She's friendly, so she interacts with the rest of the party members almost as much as Alto does. I still don't know whether to classify Mayrin's relationship with Saki as queer platonic or just non-sexual romance. But it's definitely some of the most romantic and troubled stuff I've ever written. I got really invested in their relationship and had a lot of fun with it. If neither of them get actual romantic sexual partners in the future, they'll probably wind up getting married just for the legal benefits. I mean, they basically already act like life partners. Speaking of Mayrin and romance, she first develops her crush on Teagan during the party's overnight stay in the cave on Pizzicato Trail, when Teagan offers to help her. Mayrin is partial to that kind of jerk who's nice deep down type that Teagan sort of superficially resembles. I guess you can say that she's unlucky in love that way. She's currently trying to get over her attraction to Teagan as quickly as possible, but since Teagan is making a conscious effort to be nicer to her now, it's not going very well. So Mayrin has a lot of frustrated outbursts at herself. Also, this is something I can only say now, but I deliberately designed Mayrin to have a kind of Sailor Moon aesthetic. She's one of the more fashion-conscious party members, so I'm most comfortable with changing her hairstyle. Her image in Ending 1 seems to be the first time she's worn her hair that short, though. Her birthday is actually a pun. Say the digits and 15 separately and you get Ichigo. Oh, and that means strawberry! Oh my god. That's a good pun. Congratulations on clearing the game. I hope I was able to be of help. Aubrey Spica, age 17, agender, 171 centimeters tall, born September 9th, and is a Virgo. The main heroine of the story, so to speak. One of the star children adopted by Altair after the metronome disasters. The one who proposed the idea of hibernation in the first place, and the volunteer for the first experiment. Slept for nearly 2,000 years, only to be awakened by Alto's party as they passed through Euphony Temple. Fell in love with Alto at first sight and joined her ensemble, because she was all they had to cling to in an unfamiliar world. has a perfect soprano singing voice, casts magic using song and support from their hand chimes. Left-handed. Their hairpins were gifts from Altair. Grew up in Bel Canto's red light district for the first 9 to 10 years of their life. As a result of speaking the deliberately constructed accent of the sex workers there, has a thick accent even now. Was originally an only child who lived with their parents. After being adopted by Altair, gained 20-something foster siblings including Chantal. Was originally from a poor family, and so did not have a surname until Altair gave him the name Spica. Generally shy, quiet, and polite, gets lonely easily. Has had a tendency towards codependency since their deaths of their parents, which was originally focused towards Altair, but was then refocused on Alto. Can sometimes be very passive-aggressive and is capable of real coldness and poison. Their usual demeanor towards the objects of their affection is still a natural part of who they are, but they make a conscious effort to always be their best self towards those they want to stay with them. As a child, fiercely kept everyone but Altair at arm's length, and was generally irritable with Chantal's attempts to keep reaching out to them. In the present day, they are much more civil, but it takes most of the story for them to start interacting with anyone other than Alto of their own free will. Is aware deep down that they are just using Alto to have an excuse to keep living, but does not fully confront that fact or try to change their behavior, until their experience in uncommon time forces them to come to terms with their unhealthy coping mechanisms. Knowledgeable about the stars, like their father. Their cooking skills are rudimentary, but rather than being clumsy or bad at cooking, it seems that they became averse to cooking due to chores being done in groups at Altair's mansion. Lately, they have become more interested in learning in order to help their relationship with Alto become more equal. Also, they appear to be pretty easily embarrassed. Yes, we might have noticed that. The main heroine with an appearance so late into the first act that they didn't get to directly appear in either version of the demo. Sorry about that, kiddo. Aubrey has a lot of really fun reaction-type expressions. They are usually pretty quiet, so it's fun to put them in these different reactionary situations. Also, their eyes are colored very differently from the rest of the cast. Did you notice? Yeah, they're reddish. On the same note of design aspects, it's kind of hilarious that their outfit wound up more futuristic looking than the rest of the parties, given that they come from the past. It was a little bit funny to see how some of the testers reacted with dismay to the revelation that Aubrey is actually just as awful as the rest of the party. Sorry everyone, there aren't any actual There aren't actually that many healthy people in this game. That's just not the point. I mean, I thought it was good because character development, you know? In order to move forward, Aubrey needs to understand how they're hurting themselves and the people around them, but also to accept that it's alright for them to live and be healthy. I had a lot of fun with how Luthier changes Aubrey's whole playstyle. It's a powerful physical weapon, but you lose a lot of Aubrey's magic attack in exchange. And even though their sing commands are still available, they're not as effective. Did you give them Luthier or stay with their ham chimes? Oh, I definitely gave them Luthier because it's a fucking scythe. Okay.